Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani. We've had a busy week, and now we're getting right into the throes of the football season. We have a lot to get into. #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will be the Pittsburgh Steelers getting set for their opener at Cincinnati. And here to debate is your panel tonight. We have Jeff Hathhorn, the man who does everything, sports director of 93.7 The Fan. Will Graves from the Associated Press is in the middle, and to his left, it's Chris Adamski from the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review, Trib Live. So let's get
scowl you got there.
Yeah,
wow. We're in trouble tonight.
You do everything. I don't do much. That's why I can't compete with.
All right, let's get right into this one. This game, Cincinnati, Jeff. Let's talk about Cincinnati because the Steelers are going to go in there as underdogs. Obviously, they went to the Super Bowl. They caught a lot of people by storm. Can they do that again, or will they be looked at as, uh-oh, that's a good team, we're going to bring our best, not just the Steelers, but everybody else? Are they vulnerable to have maybe a step back?
Well, we saw that with Buffalo last year, I think. I mean, you never know first game what's going to happen in that first one. There's going to be a lot of pressure. The fans will be geeked up. They were just in the Super Bowl and had a chance to win it. So they're going to be fired up. It's been years since they've been this good, and they probably going to have a majority of their own fans for the first time. They picked up a couple offensive linemen. They're excited there.
I mean, I think they don't have a pedigree of winning for any extended period. I mean, like even under Marvin, they were good for like a while, but they never won that playoff game. But I think when you look at the talent, the way they've made smart additions to the roster, to me, the way it looks on the outside in is they understand their window where they're going to be able to afford like Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow and these guys is small, and they're trying to maximize. I think they're going to be a threat for sure.
I think there's a natural overrating of the Super Bowl team every year. I think at that point they'll be hyped up. I still don't know if I'd pick them over like a Buffalo or a Kansas City even, let's say, or some of the other improved teams in the AFC, but they deserve to be favored over the Steelers in Week 1.
Okay, well, let's talk about the Steelers. They're going to be favored mostly because I think the Steeler offensive line still is very much a question mark. You know, they brought in a couple of guys. Those guys so far haven't looked as if they're going to be game changers. And then some of the young guys, the Steelers, based on their draft last year, 3rd and 4th round picks, have not looked good. So what happens in Week 1? Do we see an improvement or maybe the same?
You know, I talked to like James Daniels and a couple of guys last week about you're going to look better with 22 back there the whole game, right? I mean, I think if Najee is back there, I think, and they're able to have some success early in the game, I think it's much easier for these guys, in my opinion, to be able to run block as opposed to be this lights-out pass blocking group off the bat. So I think if they can run with, I think they're going to not be terrible. I mean, I wouldn't say like
shoot high.
You know, I mean,
not terrible.
What would be success? Mitch not having in a body cast at the end of the first game. I mean, I think they're going to be okay. I think if Najee's back there, they can get into a rhythm. I think they'll be okay. Are they going to be good? I don't think they're going to be good, but they're not going to be this. It's not going to be as bad as it was in the preseason, in my opinion.
I think up until that Jacksonville game, that was an abject disaster. Pass blocking and run blocking. They couldn't. That's where things really, the tide turned. Up to that point, you could talk yourself into being optimistic about it. You could say James Daniels is still young. I don't know. James Daniels was sold as this Pro Bowler in waiting, and we really haven't seen that throughout camp. And it might be he's around, still assimilating himself. We'll see. Mason Cole really doesn't have the pedigree. He's been sort of a journeyman type player. I don't know. We'll see what happens at left guard. Dotson, we know who he is. I don't know how much improvement you'll get. Dan Moore, you would think improved, but he might be their worst lineman so far in the preseason. So I don't know where you go there either.
Yeah, he didn't have a good Jacksonville game. I think that's safe to say. And it's funny because Mason Cole said, I probably am phrasing this the wrong way, but I'm glad we had that bad game because it really put it out on tape. It allowed them to force them to work on things that they thought they were kind of getting by with and realized that they couldn't get by with doing that. And, you know, the other reality is, you don't have to have a great offensive line to be really good. I mean, Cincinnati did not have a great offensive line last year and went to the Super Bowl.
50 sacks, I think Burrow took last year.
The Steelers in 08 did not have a great offensive line, and they were still good. But I think that could still bring them down. I think if you could talk yourself into believing the Steelers are a really good skill position group, and you could say if you think the quarterback's going to be okay, that's fine. And the offensive line is the one thing that you really have a hard time selling right now as being above the line.
And Bob, even with the add of Jesse Davis, I mean, these are their best 5. I don't think there's a question about it, at least from my standpoint. Yeah. These are their best 5 linemen, and they're either going to grow and get better or oof.
Or oof.
Yeah, right?
Well, you mentioned, interestingly, Mitch Trubisky in your earlier comment, which I think is every one of us here assumes he's going to be the starting quarterback, yet no announcement from Mike Tomlin. So, Chris, why is that? Why has there not been an announcement from Mike Tomlin on this yet?
Because he likes to mess with us. I don't know. I really, I'm half kidding.
But this question the first 15 years on the job, and I really think he's sort of enjoying
making up for lost time.
I mean, it is there were some choice words after the last one last week when we said we'll ask about it again tomorrow, and there was a colorful response off camera. I think he enjoys it.
Yeah, I think so too. The crazy part is there hasn't been any of that theatrics whatsoever in the day-to-day reps. It has been indescribable. First team reps for Mr. Trubisky the entire time.
Right.
Not even one, maybe here or there, a little snap or two. Not like one day even did they throw a bone to Pickett or Rudolph or somebody. It hasn't even been like this idea of a competition from all the way from minicamp till now.
Can we get something out? Can we just talk about this for a minute? If Kenny Pickett goes to Iowa State, are people losing their minds over Kenny Pickett? Look, and I'm not anti-Kenny Pickett, but I just don't understand the rationale. This
You might have actually people go the other way and say, "Oh, you picked the guy from Iowa State, 20th overall. You needed offensive line help. What are you doing?" You haven't heard that much.
I don't know, but if that guy from Iowa State was a Heisman finalist and the Steelers' first-round pick, there still would be a lot of people
there would,
pining
but
for
I
it.
just don't. And if we're talking about success would be the quarterback not in a body cast after week one, why would you? And I've been on here before talking about this. Why would you want to put Kenny Pickett in that situation? And if you go to Kenny Pickett week one, you can't go back.
No,
you cannot go back. So
right.
for me, I mean, why is Mike delaying this? I don't know. I mean, look, but Pitt had the same thing with Keaton Slovis and Nick Patty, and we all kind of knew how that was going to go, and he waited until a week before the game to announce the start.
And the key thing that Tomlin said is, it doesn't mean I haven't made up my mind. I'm just not telling you.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not like they're debating it. And Chris is right. I mean, every single practice, everything you see, it's Mitch Trubisky.
We have a lot more to get into. One final question on this segment to you guys. I'm going to give you a choice here. Give me a surprise player or somebody who may disappoint. I need one of each. It could be the same player, or you can give me two players here. Jeff, start with you.
I think the surprise is going to be Chase Claypool. I think he's going to have a big year. I think he's going to bounce back and have more of like his rookie year than what we saw last year. Disappointing player. Maybe Alex Highsmith because he's starting with an injury.
Right.
I mean, just to be like if Pony was here, this would be like a Pony pick. I think Devin Bush is not going to be terrible. I really, and I think the bar is so low at the moment that anything like literally walking onto the field and breaking the huddle without, looking like an idiot would be considered a step forward for Steeler fans. I really do think that this is, and I tried to get Mike on it the other day. I was like, it's a big year for Devin. He's like, it's a big year for everybody. I was like, big year for a guy who doesn't have a contract next year. And then he kind of gave a somewhat pat answer. I think Devin is going to be a guy that's going to be not. I think he's going to be look a little more like 2019 Devin Bush.
A surprise, you know what? This might be boring. I'm going to go Mitch Trubisky. I don't know. I think, he's still a number 2 overall pick. He still gets the pass of the bad system thing. If he fails here, then okay, he's a bust. He'll be number 2 overall pick. We can't hold a job here. And I know he has a first-round rookie behind him, so he can't hold a job forever. But I think he could. Maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I don't know. I think he can come up in this system. He can perform okay.
I do too.
The disappointment. I'm all only because was so overhyped about 2 or 3 weeks ago was George Pickens. I think there's a point where we got to the point where we believed he was going to be a superstar right off the bat. Randy Moss and this and that. He's been sort of invisible now these last couple of preseason games, the last 2 or 3 weeks of practice and camp. So I'm not saying he's going to be a bust by any stretch of the imagination, but let's pump the brakes on him being, a Pro Bowler as a rookie.
We got to go to break on that note. When we come back a little bit later, we're going to talk about predictions for the AFC North. We'll get these guys' take. Next up, though, we're talking college football. Pitt, West Virginia, and now a 12-team playoff is on the horizon. We'll get into that right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown.
#1 Cochran Sports Showdown is brought to you by #1 Cochran. Go one better.